It is very easy to jump to conclusions, but we don't know for certain what our end is going to be. Our Hazrat Shafiq al-Ummah rahmatullah alayhi has mentioned this incident, and this is a very thought-provoking incident, because we don't know how we are going to die. Really, we don't know how we are going to die, and it is vital for each and every one of us to ensure that we have the component of respect to the symbols of Islam. As he had mentioned, there was a gambler, and he was notorious for his gambling to this extent that he was so evil and vile that he used to gamble outside the masjid. He used to gamble outside the masjid, and and my dear friends, understand this also, that each and every one of us, whether we like it or not, we have to leave this world. We have to leave this world. And eventually this person, he says, you know what, he was confronted by the pangs of death, but to this extent that his ruh was unable to leave his body. Allahumma fazla. Allah Ta'ala will protect us. And this is also another thing also, I just remembered. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam has taught us an amazing dua. And this is something that we all require to make this dua also. Allahumma laqini hujjatal iman indal mamat. Allahu Akbar. What an amazing dua of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam has taught us that as we the ummati, we must make dua unto Allah Ta'ala. Allah teach us the code of iman at the time of death. So we find that this gambler, he says, that he was in the throes of death, and his ruh is not coming out. His ruh is not coming out. Now why I'm mentioning this incident, my dear friends? For this simple reason, that lots of times people pass judgment. And you must remember that, when we pass judgment and we start entertaining notions and opinions with regard to others, we don't realize that it is an extremely destructive thing. To this extent, my dear friend, if that person who entertains negative and bad thoughts about the next person, bear in mind that a person will be taken to task in the court of Allah Ta'ala for those. Imam Ghazali rahmatullah alayhi has mentioned that a person will not be taken to task for entertaining good thoughts about the next person. But if a person entertains bad thoughts, he'll be taken to task in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This person, this gambler, and he's now, his ruh is not coming out. So then you find that his fellow friends, they say, we require to actually, get the services of someone, because, that our friend is now languishing in this sorry state. Let's go and see who we can get some assistance from. And bear in mind, I think it's very important that we actually share this point. My dear friends, make qadr of our ulama. I implore you, make qadr of our ulama. Hazrat Hakim Makhtar Sahab, rahmatullah alayhi, has actually mentioned, he said, by make qadr of the ulama, he says, if it had not been for them, who would have performed our janazah salahs? Who would have actually taught us about iman? Who would have taught us in our madaris? So he is this gambler is in the throes of death, and then we find that they go out in search of an alim. He says, please help us. He says, our colleague, in evil also, but now he's in the throes of death, his ruh is not coming out, please help us. So he said, the alim comes and then says, looks at his pitiful situation. Then he actually asks his friend, he said, listen, there must be something good. There must be something good in this person, and that is worthy of note. So his friends actually mentioned, he says, what you're talking about good? He says this person is so evil, that he had the audacity of gambling outside the masjid. So that the alim mentioned, he said, listen, no, there must be something good. There must be something good. So one of his friends says, listen, there is one fight by virtue of which maybe, it can be regarded as good. He says that one very unique thing about our friend was that, whilst in the midst of gambling, but then when the adhan was called out, he immediately stopped. And he put his head down. And he listened to the words of the adhan. He listens to the word of the adhan. And after listening to the words of the adhan, and then thereafter, he said, when the muazzin, La ilaha illallah, he used to say, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah, and he should take the card, he says, come, let's start again. That was his habit. So the alim mentions, he says, from where should he gamble, and which muazzin should call the adhan? He says, the muazzin of that particular masjid. He says, call him here. But remember, good habits never die. Good habits never die. So Hazrat Rahmatullah then explains, he said that the muazzin was called, and then thereafter he says, the alim mentions, start the adhan at his head side. So spontaneously, when the adhan was stopped, even unconsciously, Allahu Akbar, even unconsciously, he said when the adhan was started, he in that unconscious state, he actually put his hand out. So, he says stop, 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 and then he listens to the adhan attentively. He listens to the adhan attentively, and then thereafter, when the muazzin says La ilaha illallah, he recites La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, and he goes into the mercy of Allah. What right do we have to think ill of the next person, my dear friends? What right do we have to think ill of the next person? And you must remember, it says to this extent, our Hazrat Rahmatullahi, amongst the first talimat that he had given us also when we went to Jalalabad, Hazrat Rahmatullahi mentioned, don't even think low of a kafir, because we don't know what is going to be our end. Our Hazrat Rahmatullahi then gives another example. He said a Hindu Lalaji in Deoban. A Hindu Lalaji in Deoban. He was a mushrik, a person who associated with part of Allah. But you find that person who respects the symbols of Islam, that person who respects the symbol of Islam, then Allah Ta'ala then responds and in a very unique manner. So he said that it was common rule in Deoban that even the Hindus should respect the month of Ramadan. Even the Hindus should respect the month of Ramadan to this extent that they should not even eat in front of the Muslims during the day. One day, this Hindu son, he was eating in front of the Muslim children during the course of the day. The father, a Hindu also, but a person who associates with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he goes into a rage and he gives his son a tight slap. He says, what is the matter with you? He says, don't you know? He says that the Muslims are fasting. How dare you actually, eat in front of them? This is what happened also. And then this Hindu Lalaji passed away. He passed away. A few days later, a wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees him in a dream also, and the Hindu Lalaji also is strolling in the garden of Jannah. This Hindu Lalaji is strolling in the garden of Jannah. So this pious son of Allah Ta'ala said, Lalaji, see, you are a mushrik, you associate with part of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now what jod is there between you and Jannah? What link is there between you and Jannah? So the Hindu Lalaji mentioned, he says, undoubtedly, I was a person, he says, who associated with part of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But, we say, what must I tell you? He said that one day when I had respected the symbol of the institution of fasting of the Muslims, and when I reprimanded my son, Allah Ta'ala loved me honoring the month of Ramadan so much that Allah Ta'ala blessed me with Iman prior to me leaving this world. Allah Ta'ala blessed me with Iman prior to me leaving this world.